exclude EVs and all hybrids from the so-called luxury tax. Implement a mechanism to prevent automotive companies with no significant manufacturing or dealer footprint, investment and employment in Canada, such as Tesla and Rivian, from profiting from the sale of their excess credits.
We mentioned about the credits. Are you aware of any Canadian automakers that have already purchased compliance credits from other car companies internationally?
Yes. Automakers have already purchased over $1 billion in compliance credits to prepare themselves for these targets out to 2030.
Where do those credits go? Do they go out of the country?
Presumably, they're being purchased from a foreign automaker. So this is a company in Canada giving money to foreign automakers to comply.
Flight of capital. That is resource and wealth from this nation that is evaporated and not available. Appreciate it. Is that Tesla? Okay, thank you.
In your opening remarks, Mr. Kingston, I'd like to move to you. And on that back and forth we had previously, you'd stated that Canadian auto manufacturers have committed over $1 billion towards credits required for this 20% target. To the best of your knowledge, have Canadian companies actually bought credits from American automakers such as Tesla, not just committed, but bought credits with real money?
Yeah, my understanding is that they have.
And how much could you say again? Have they
over $1 billion? And if you look at the deficit in sales now to 2030, it would cost at least $3 billion to comply with this regulation.
So it looks to me, based on the numbers you said, Tesla's received about $800 million, and likely it has to be from Canada. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would like to move a motion that I think will hopefully get to the bottom of this for both my bloc colleague and all of the folks around this table as to the question of whether or not money from Canadian automakers has been sent to Tesla. So I would move that the committee request Tesla Inc. or any of its relevant subsidiaries operating in Canada, or Tesla, to produce the following information as it relates to the Government of Canada's electric vehicle availability standard. 1. How many compliance credits has Tesla, A, already sold as of October 31st, 2025, or B, committed to sell to any corporation in Canada or respective related corporate entity? And 2, the associated total revenue in Canadian dollar equivalent for each above category, i.e. already received by Tesla and committed to receive, and that this information be provided to the committee no later than December 10th, 2025 at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, I recognize that Mr. Kingston is unable to provide the Canadian outflow of cash due to the commercial sensitivities of this credit market, and recognizing that Tesla is the only sole manufacturer that would have such an excess that they would be the sellers in this carbon market, I think it's reasonable for us to be definitive as to whether or not hundreds of millions of dollars have actually flowed out of this country, because I think it's fair to say it's one thing if a dollar value of $1 billion or more has been committed versus at a time that we've had such a liquidity crisis for our automakers in this country at such an international challenging trade environment with the United States. I think, whether or not Tesla will be transparent. Obviously, their financial disclosures already have the bulk numbers, so I hope that they might be willing to try to play ball. And I think, to my colleague, Mr. Benin, Tesla is the one that would hold this information, so I hope I could get the support of them to find out not who is telling the truth here necessarily, but whether or not there has actually been an outflow. So I hope I can get support from all of my colleagues to make this request of Tesla to find out if Canadian companies, at a time they need capital, have been forced due to this scheme to purchase compliance credits from an American auto manufacturer, most likely Tesla, based on the financial disclosures. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Leslie. Before I go to Mr. St. Pierre, I'd like to ask the members if they want to release the witnesses so that we can look at this said proposed motion.
Well, I have a point of order on that. I respect your motion. I'd love to debate it. I was going to ask if we can continue with the questioning. I had about 5 minutes of questions, and my colleague had about 2.5 minutes. So I would propose that we continue with the questioning and then proceed to your motion, if everybody would agree.
That takes unanimous consent. Is that a unanimous? I need unanimous consent. Unanimous consents to go with that.
No, I'm curious, maybe we could do a quick straw poll. Is there a willingness to ask this? I think it's just open information. I look to my colleague from the bloc and my Liberal colleagues if there is an interest in just quickly passing this motion so we could get back. All it is a request from the Environment Committee to Tesla and any affiliates to provide the information that I outlined in this motion that would provide clarity for all Canadians, but certainly for this committee after such a back and forth that we had between one of my colleagues and one of our witnesses regarding this specific information. There is simply one company that has this information. If we ask, we might just find out the answer, and I think we could put the issue to bed once and for all. So I'd propose we just quickly go to a vote, pass the motion, and move on.
Mr. St-Pierre?
Yeah, I would ask that we give 7 minutes, release the witnesses, and thank them for their time. And we have an hour of committee business, and we can go through committee business to discuss the motion. We would need a few minutes to actually read the motion. I think that's a reasonable request, just to ask for 7 minutes of additional time with the witnesses.
No, I'd like to just move forward with this motion.
Well, I think it'd be appropriate.
And sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chair. I believe we did circulate the motion. If we could have it circulated now, your office.
We only have the motion in English, so we need to suspend in order for the clerk to translate it in French so that Monsieur Bonnet can have a copy of it. So, Monsieur St-Pierre?
Yeah, can I request a printed copy of the motion in both languages? Thank you.
Suspension. Suspend. Mr. Leslie, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all of our support staff that worked diligently to resolve a IT issue. I believe we should now all have a copy in both French and English circulated digitally and physically of the motion that I had read into the record towards the end of my questioning to Brian Kingston from the Manufacturers Association, specifically regarding I think questions that many around this table and rumors, we'll call them, that are unverified in terms of whether or not Canadian auto manufacturers have sent cold, hard cash in the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars to American automakers, most likely based on the criteria of producing a high enough volume of electric vehicles to create the credits under the credit exchange system. We had a bit of an exchange between my bloc colleague and one of the witnesses and yourself, Mr. Chair, regarding that particular question. And given the difficulties and I think, frankly, a lack of transparency that certainly will exist in this carbon or this credit scheme that has been developed as an attempt at flexibility of a electric vehicle mandate, the commercial sensitivities as to the costing of these specific credits on an individual basis is the reason for the commercial sensitivities and the inability for any of the manufacturers to specifically disclose. Hence why in the motion I tried to be broad enough to further differentiate what we know Tesla's compliance credits revenues have been in 2 of the quarters from this year, recognizing that they are certainly not all from the Californian portion of the North American credit market. Certainly Canada has contributed, as evidenced by the representative that came here from the manufacturers. So we know that they have been bought, but given the limitations of those contracts, I think it's reasonable to ask the only party that we know has the information and has the ability to share it with us. So in that vein, that is why my motion today is to request to Tesla to tell us how many compliance credits Tesla has already sold as of the end of October of this year and has committed to sell, as well as the overall total Canadian dollar equivalent for each of those categories, to know with some finitude as to whether or not at a time of a liquidity crisis for Canadian auto manufacturers and a jobs crisis for so many people, and particularly southwestern Ontario, the challenges that are facing this sector are immense, and we have government trying to take action, but apparently have policies in place at odds that have caused so much confusion and potentially driven hundreds of millions of dollars of much needed cash from these companies to an American auto manufacturer, particularly Tesla. So I think in an effort of transparency, it's very reasonable for the Environment Committee to make this request to Tesla. There's no guarantee that they would share this information with us, but I hope I can have unanimous support from all of our colleagues to provide clarity to Canadians as to what the outcomes of this policy and the confusion sown from the pause have been, and whether or not the manufacturing industry is out potentially hundreds of millions of dollars, and then it will hopefully help lead to future policy decisions as to whether or not we should completely eliminate the EV mandate to stop the bleed, or whether or not the companies have been honest in the amount of money that they have already spent to the American auto manufacturers and or committed. So with that, I hope we can get to a relatively quick vote with, I hope, all of my colleagues' support in an effort to transparency for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So before I give the floor to Saint-Pierre, I would just like to ask, for the benefit of Monsieur Bonnet, au bénéfice pour Monsieur Bonnet.
So for the benefit of Mr. Bonnet, that any motion should always be presented in the two official languages, and secondly, to provide us with a paper copy so that we don't hold up the proceedings. Mr. Saint-Pierre now. First of all, I'd like to thank you for this French version that's been provided.
I appreciate that there's a bilingual version for my colleague and for myself. So I appreciate this motion. I think it's quite reasonable. I wasn't sure if you were going to seek Elon Musk as a witness, but I see that that's not in the motion. So I don't have much else to comment on. I do appreciate this version. I think it's a reasonable request. So thank you for raising it.
Further debate?
Monsieur Bonnet.
Mr. Bonin, yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for that French version. I think that it's quite clear, but I understand your aim, namely to have the number of credits sold in Canada, isn't it? So I wonder whether it's clear if we're talking about any corporation in Canada or committed to sell to any corporation in Canada. I think it's the credits that are sold in Canada. Do you understand? So it's a Canadian company that's buying credits from the US. That's not the information we want to obtain. So I wonder if, looking to my colleague, could we make that more specific? So probably would be an amendment where roughly we'd say how many compliance credits Tesla's already sold as of October 31st, 2025 to Canada. So, Mr. Leslie, would you like to respond to that, or would you like him to present an amendment as such?
Maybe address this just before moving an amendment. So, in the motion, in the first part here, I believe that's already covered under Section B, committed to sell, to any corporation in Canada. So to me, the motion is explicit if they are selling to a U.S.-based auto manufacturer due to a lack of compliance in the Californian mandate that they have in place. I agree we don't necessarily need that information. I think it's just Canada, but that's why, to me, the specific language of to any corporation in Canada in the first bullet point should cover that off. I don't think there's a need for any amendment.
Je suis pas convaincu.
I'm not completely convinced. I don't want to just see the figures all mixed up, including the US, and that we're not able to parse out the exact facts in Canada related to the Zero Emission Act. Because if we've got credits that have been bought by Canadian companies in the US, well, I understand that's not what we want to discover. We want to know what's been happening in Canada and with the Net Zero Emissions Accountability Act, how many credits have been bought from Tesla in Canada.
Yeah, I would be open to a friendly amendment that I could suggest one that somebody else could move that in the middle of the second line of the first point here where it says how many compliance credits has Tesla A already sold as of October 31st, 2025 to Canadian companies or Canadian corporations. Would that offer the clarity that you're looking for there?
Oui.
Yes. Now it's in English what you're saying, and I'm trying to compare the English with the French version on all of this. Well, would it be easy if we translate it? Well, I've got these two versions of the English and the French motion for point A. I'm trying to compare them, and they don't really match. So in English, you've got 2B, and there's just 1B in the other versions. That's why I'm a bit confused. You've got 2 B's in English. Well, before we continue, I'll ask the clerk to look at that point and correct all of that, and then we'll get back to you. Just a moment.
An A, a B, and a B in the English, and then you have again an A and a B. So you have 2 B's and only 1 B in the French. So if you can please modify the text. You see it?
I see the translation issue.
Translation issue. So we'll have the clerk just. No, well, he can explain it to him, so this way he'll be more reassured.
Yes, sir. It says Tesla A already sold as of
En anglais, et vous revenir. Sure.
Ma foi, je suis rendu à
Monsieur
parler en
Bonnet.
anglais.
Well, I'm getting good at English, says Mr. Bonin. So just try and clarify this. Let's make sure that the US and Canada are not mixed in together. That was one point for me. Then secondly, I do think that we need to have the sales of credits of all the federal manufacturers. So asking Tesla, it would be interesting to know what's happening with the other automobile manufacturers as well, not just Tesla.
I wish our witnesses were still here because they would have a better sense, certainly from the manufacturing perspective. I'm not opposed to that. My understanding is that the answer from everybody but Tesla was we don't sell any because they don't produce a high enough threshold of EVs to enter the creation of credit market. And if they do, they're just kind of holding on to them because they just don't have a high enough volume. Hence why Tesla makes up 99+% of all of the credits that are available for sale in this North American credit market. I'm not opposed to, but I think that's ultimately what's going to come back for many other companies is we don't sell any. We haven't sold any yet, at least.
Yes, that's an excellent point, dear colleague. But I think we could ask, for example, for the sales and the credits, because I'm interested to know, for example, who has sold 20% EVs and already has these credits. Now, you're presuming, I understand, that they're not going to sell credits, but I don't know. I imagine it could be possible. But I'd like to know how many credits they have vis-à-vis this 20% target. what are the credits they've already accumulated? I understand your point, but I think we could also ask the credits that they have and the sales that they've got. Perhaps they don't have any.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not opposed to adding prior to that this information. We provided a very simple point that the other major auto manufacturers of GM, Stellantis, Ford, and Honda provide the same information or something along those lines. Like I'm not opposed to that request going out to them. I'm also curious the answer. I think based on what my understanding is that they're just not in the market, but I see no issue in asking all of the companies.
Donc, sur peu, vous allez avoir.
So very soon you're going to get the electronic version of these two paragraphs that have been modified to include the word Canadian. Is that right, Clerk? Yes, perfectly. And we'll start on that right basis and start with that first of all. And if that's positive, then secondly, we'll see if there's other changes to be added.
Vous allez avoir les copies.
So you're going to get a copy in both languages to make that easier.
Si le greffier vous lit, qu'est-ce qui...
So would you like the clerk to read this out, or would you like to wait to get the actual document? I would be at ease with the clerk reading this out. Can you read it out in French? Both parts, please. Well, the part in English, and then the part in French.
Discussion parmi les...
So there's discussions, but on behalf of Mr. Bonin, the amendment that's being proposed is to add after the words October 31st, 2025, the following words: to Canadian corporations. And also a reminder that the corrected language will be sent out in the next few seconds by email.
Là, vous avez continué à discuter.
And we can continue to discuss. Well, what you discussed hasn't been included yet, rather. So let's take this first sub-amendment that you've proposed already, and then afterwards we'll continue if there are other amendments. So has everyone received that document now?
Oh, you received it? No?
Right, it's been sent, so it should be there in a moment.
Monsieur Saint-Pierre, je suis désolé.
Mr. Saint-Pierre, you're not going to get a paper copy, but you'll get a rough idea of that. We've received it.
Bienvenue, Monsieur Ministre Blair. Monsieur Blair.
And welcome to the Honourable Mr. Blair, Honourable Minister. So have you all received a copy now?
Est-ce que vous pourrez juste vérifier?
Ms. Bonny, could you just check the drafting? And does it match the English and the French? Could the interpreters also receive a copy electronically, please, Clerk?
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
Yes, Chair. And in terms of continuously improving this, could we have the same format as well? Because we want to be able to compare it because the formatting is different at the moment.
Tout de suite ou pour les minutes,
Right where is that okay? Okay, for the minutes, all right. So the language works, it's just the formatting that needs to be adjusted, and the word Canadian has been included, and so on. So on this sub-amendment then, specifically, is there still any further debate to be had on this?
tous ceux en faveur?
Everyone in favour on this sub-amendment? Those who are against this sub-amendment? So that sub-amendment has been adopted accordingly. The sub-amendment. So let's go back now to the motion. Mr. Bonin, do you have any other amendments to suggest? Yes. Well, my colleagues seem to be in favour of also covering the sales and credits for the other federal manufacturers. So it was to include those two words, asks the chair. So to ask for the sales and credits for all of the manufacturers. So could you propose to the clerk where exactly these words are going to be included so that we can have a better idea, please?
Je crois, Monsieur Bonnet, que Madame.
I think that Ms. Anstey has already come up with the text in English, so we'll start with that, and then we'll translate it into French, okay? So Ms. Anstey is going to read it out.
So added would be C, the other major auto manufacturers in Canada, Toyota, Honda, General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis, also have the same request for information made to them.
Excusez, est-ce qu'il y a Kia et...
Was there Hyundai in your list? Hyundai?
Bonnet is asking if there's Kia and.
They're not made in Canada.
Those are the major Canadian manufacturers. That's what's listed.
Canada, but they don't build. Do they build here?
But they are under the mandate as well.
Add them. Doesn't cost anything.
Sure, we can add them.
Sure. Put 'em
Sure,
on the
no,
list.
no problem. Kia,
But why
We've got
don't we
Honda.
just
Hi,
ask
Honda.
for all manufacturers that are falling under this? Voyons, je parle en anglais. Désolé.
Now, why am I drifting off into English there? Sorry.
Perhaps we could ask the clerk to compile that list, have it added if we agree to that list being what the amendment is, so that we could not have this, us Googling various companies that are selling cars in Canada. If we could maybe just have that agreement, the clerk could do it himself.
So, friends, I ask you to keep that thought in mind. I'm going to go to Mrs. Midima and then
Motion
come
to
back.
suspend, please, for a few minutes. Thank you.
Suspend. Debate. I was on with Monsieur Saint-Pierre, who had last requested a point of order. Monsieur Saint-Pierre.
Yeah, just very quickly, it would have been nice to have this motion in advance, and maybe it's a suggestion to my colleagues to provide this in advance and not dump it on us at the last minute, and provide bilingual versions. That would be very much appreciated. It doesn't allow us much time to actually review, and I've got some questions as to whether it's potential violation of the Competition Act or if it's legal. So I don't have much else to comment, so I'll leave it there.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think we don't want to get in the way of the request for this information. It's information we all are very interested in. We're unsure if we'll get it, but we're prepared to go to a vote.
Thank you, Mrs. Minima. Mr. Leslie.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Just to my colleague's point, for future, because this might come up again, not an entirely different issue, this committee is a sovereign body that can request whatever it wants. We can't compel anything necessarily. There are certain powers, but let's not go down that path just yet. But there is zero chance that it is illegal to ask for information. We may not get the details that we want, but I think it's our best chance of getting any transparency in this space of what is a rather opaque process. So I appreciate the willingness to just move to a vote, and just want to assure that it's not illegal to ask for things.
So, Monsieur Lemire?
Mr. Lemire, well, I'd just like to mention the consensus, of course, has been established, and that favours dialogue. But before we go on to all of that, we have to ensure that we've actually adopted the first sub-amendment to include the word Canadian. That was voted on, and then the second amendment that Ms. Asti was going to present to us was to come. So are we going to go on to the second amendment? Are we going to have a vote on the motion as a whole?
The amendment, so the committee must dispose of that.
Donc, alors maintenant,
So we're going to have a debate on the second amendment that was presented by Madame Asti. You have the floor indeed, Ms. Asti.
Well, I've provided to the clerk all of the companies that manufacture cars in Canada, which this would apply to, and we've included it, and we believe that this would cover off any concerns that our bloc colleague had, and I would move that that would be the amendment that we would make.
so has this amendment, the second one, been forwarded to all parties, to all members?
It's just been verbal. Perhaps the clerk could read it out.
Mr. Saint-Pierre?
Yeah, maybe a clarification question to my colleague, Mrs. Anstey. Is this the section C? Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to ask the clerk to read section C. Je vais demander au greffier de lire la section C qui.
So I'll ask the clerk to read out section C that deals with this particular amendment so that we can have a debate on that afterwards under category C. Clerk, thank you, Chair. Ms. Anstey's proposing that we add another part C. So the other big automobile manufacturers in Canada, so Ford, Toyota, Honda, General Motors, and Stellantis. We should also ask them to provide the same information. And then English.
Manufacturers in Canada, namely Ford, Toyota, Honda, General Motors, and Stellantis, be also requested to provide the same information, si j'ai bien compris.
If I've correctly understood. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Mrs. Anstey and then Mr. Bexley.
No, he asked, all those in favor.
Oh, so no, he said, not me.
I apologize.
He's telling me what I should do next.
Okay, follow the instructions.
Fair enough.
So, are we good to go for any further debate? Further debate? Yes? No? All those in favor to the amendment that was proposed by Mrs. Anstey?
Opposed?
Opposed? Okay. So the second amendment is adopted. Now we're back to the motion. And going back to the motion, should I ask again if there's further debate on the original motion, including the two amendments? All those in favor?
Opposed?
All those opposed? Motion carried. Committee business. Do we have to do that?
I mean, the committee can If somebody moves adjournment, then it's a vote.
Adjourn?
All those in favor?
Opposed?
Opposed?
Meeting is adjourned.
Meeting is adjourned.